Welcome, ladies and gents. Crystal Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter. Of course, you can subscribe to the channel. Let's Talk Boxing. We just witnessed a masterclass from Devin Haney and a very poor George Kambosos. It was a combination of two things. And first and foremost, I want to start off praising Devin Haney because he's shown progression. There weren't as many clinches as there were in the first fight. There were some, well, there were quite a few, but he was smart with it. He used them later on in the fight when he wanted to control the tempo and slow the fight down. And early on when he was clinching, he was still trying to keep an arm free and try and target the body on the inside of George Kambosos. And Kambosos was looking to punch on the outside of that leg in those moments. But really, what did Kambosos do today? He looked terrible. He entered the ring and he started to switch when in range without throwing anything in return. You're begging to get your head jabbed off. You're begging to get timed. It was baffling to me. Kambosos won 2 rounds. The first, and I'll get to that in a second, and the last round. And the last round is because Devin Haney didn't want to take any risks and he was seeking to tie up, right? In between that, he swept everything. And listen, Kambosos made allegedly 10 million for the first fight. And from what I've read, he's made 2 million for this fight. He had said if he loses this fight, he would retire. To me, mentally, he looked like he checked out. Now, that's not to say he's not a warrior, because he could easily have found a nice comfy spot on the canvas when he started getting really lit up in the 10th round, for instance, with some significant shots consistently. He didn't do that. He hung in there. But what I think has gone from Kambosos is that killer instinct. In the 7th round, he landed a really nice left hook to the body. And Devin Haney took the shot and then folded forward. And the commentators went, oh, there's your moment. Jump on him. He had a much better 8th and 9th round, not enough to win it because of the activity of Devin Haney. But one of the reasons he didn't win it is because he was going back to what we spoke about in the preview, resetting to the edge of the spear. Those of you that saw the preview, you will know what I'm talking about. You can't do that against Devin Haney. You're inside, stay in the pocket, start to work. He didn't seem to have that. He had exerted so much energy with meaningless movement early on. And Devin Haney in the first round was a little bit confused and he was looking and trying to read him. And Kambosos won that round because there wasn't much going on. And then just before the end of the round, he jumped in with a flurry of shots and landed some nice solid shots on him up close. And you're thinking, okay, this is interesting. The first time he's entered the pocket, Devin Haney didn't or wasn't able to or didn't tie him up. This could be interesting here. If Kambosos can do this more consistently, it becomes a tough fight for Devin Haney. Instead, what we saw is Kambosos being so easy to time on his entry point. We've always spoken about his timing and how good he is at bypassing that initial shot to enter. And then from there, he was making certain errors in his decisions and he was getting tied up in the first fight. In this fight, he wasn't even that good at entering the pocket. He looked like a shell of himself. And this is not to say he's physically washed. I'm not saying that. But listen, mentally speaking, you've got to have that killer instinct. And he didn't have that. And he was up against a very special boxer who seems to be adding other facets to his game. He developed in this fight the concept of a left hook, but also to try and understand, to move towards the left hook of Kambosos, to shut off the full rotation of that left hook. Now, what I suspect is the reason Kambosos was trying to switch early on is because when you switch, if you're in an orthodox stance, you switch to southpaw. If you're in that orthodox stance and Devin Haney's seeing those wide left hooks coming, if you switch to southpaw, your shoulder enters the center line of the opponent. Now when you throw the left hook, even if it's wide, it comes inside the typical arc of a left hook. Now this is a shot that Usyk had a lot of success with against Anthony Joshua. So maybe that's the angles that they were thinking about. But if you're going to do that, as you switch, throw the jab, you have to blind the opponent to whip in that shot. There was none of that. It was too predictable. He was moving for the sake of movement, and there was so much excess energy that he was using without any benefit that it was blatant that he was going to tire out. And he did. He was dog tired by round 7, 8. He was dog tired. And one of the things I have to say, the only criticism I'll have of Devin Haney is that Kambosos was dead on his feet, not because of the damage that was accrued, but because he was so tired. And Devin Haney still couldn't get him out of there. And listen, he's got a great chin. This is why, look, I was giving a little giggle to myself when I was hearing a lot of people saying Devin Haney's going to stop Kambosos this time. I was thinking he's not going to stop him because we know he's got a great chin. We know that Teofimo Lopez is very heavy-handed and a fantastic finisher. Devin Haney's neither of those two things. He's not pillow-fisted. There's certainly enough pop there to keep guys honest, but he's not Teofimo Lopez. And I just can't see how he's going to be able to put a guy like Kambosos away. I couldn't see it. But it presented itself as an opportunity. He was there for the taking. This was the weakest I've ever seen Kambosos. Not just in terms of the output, Not in other words, not just physically, not just how he looked, but his actual skill set. His slipping was slower. He was running out of ideas. The one thing he did do that was a bit better, he was a lot better at stopping the clinch by letting his hands go on the inside. He'd explode a little bit more on the inside, but it was so rare. It was few and far between. And he did, you know, he was able to deal with the jab a little bit at points in terms of just with stepping in the first half of the fight, just by changing the angle. But like I said, you can't switch for the sake of switching. In the second half of the fight, Devin Haney couldn't miss with anything he was throwing. Kambosos wasn't even reacting to the shots. He was eating them flush. And still Devin Haney couldn't bust him up and get him out of there. And so when a lot of people compare Haney to a young Floyd Mayweather, it's a premature comparison. Not because he's not highly skilled, not because he's not brilliant at what he does and he's only 23 years old and he will continue to improve. But Floyd was a puncher early in his career. Okay, he had some hand issues, and as he went through the weight categories and he was fighting heavier guys, that's when he changed his style. This is Devin Haney's first weight category, and he's massive at the weight. He was significantly bigger than Kambosos in there, physically speaking. So when he goes up, say, to 140, if he's up in there against a Josh Taylor physically is not George Kambosos. If he's going to come on the inside against you, you ain't just going to be able to tie him up like that. Or just say, yeah, I'll hold you and then try and hit you in the belly with one arm. That's Josh Taylor's bread and butter. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Regis Prograis, if he starts landing flush on you, that's not like George Kambosos landing the odd pot shot on you. Kambosos has never been an individual one-punch knockout artist. So this whole style that he had today, where he's loading up on one individual shot and then not going on that second phase, which is something we spoke about that was vital in the preview of this fight, the fact that he wasn't doing that even in this fight, he was never going to beat Devin Haney or hurt Devin Haney seriously. Listen, he landed a few hard pot shots. Like I said, he landed the 7th a body shot, he landed a couple of big pot shots in the 8th and the 9th, and he wasn't able to capitalize. If that was Regis Prograis, what's going to happen there? So Devin Haney still has some work to do, but he's a terrific fighter for sure. But it is a concern that there isn't the power there. Now, if he does stay at this weight category, and I don't see a reason why he shouldn't, forget the aesthetics of him at the weigh-in, because physically he looked great today. So he's making the weight and he's looking good. If he was to fight a guy like Lomachenko, who is not George Kambosos, it becomes a completely different dynamic. The question is, though, with Lomachenko reaching a certain point in his career, does he have the youthful exuberance and energy levels? I guess we're going to see a lot more of him soon and we'll know. But to be able to bypass that spear and enter the pocket consistently, if he does, he's a much better pressure fighter and finds much better angles than George Kambosos. But when Loma lost to Teofimo Lopez, one of the issues that he had is that early in the fight, he was intimidated by the firepower of Teofimo Lopez. If he doesn't feel that same level of intimidation against a very big Devin Haney, does it become a different fight straight away? So it's one I would love to see. Let me know what you think, ladies and gentlemen, of these two performances. Fantastic from Devin Haney. Kambosos, for me, he's spoken pre-fight about the possibility of retiring. Listen, he made 10 million according to reports in the first fight, 2 million according to reports for the second fight. He's got a lovely wife, lovely children. You achieved everything in the sport. You clocked it. You became the unified, or in some people's eyes, the undisputed, whichever way you want to see it, lightweight champion of the world. What more is there to achieve? 29 years old, multi-millionaire. You reached the pinnacle of your sport. Walk away now. Leave with your faculties intact and enjoy your life. Because although he was a warrior in the sense of taking the punishment when he had to, when he landed those big individual pot shots, like in the 7th, like I said, when he landed that hook to the body and Haney dipped and the commentary team went, oh, and he didn't jump on him. To me, that lacked tenacity, that lacked the killer instinct. Ferocious George Kambosos. Once you take away the ferocious, who is George? So maybe he's become civilized, so to speak. As Marvin Hagler once said, it's hard to get up in the early hours of the morning and go running when you're wearing silk pajamas. And there's nothing wrong with that. You've done it. It's a wonderful story. 2 massive events in your home country. They didn't go your way. You achieved everything you wanted to achieve, though, in terms of belts, money, legacy from an Australian boxing perspective. Brilliant. Let me know what you think, ladies and gents, about that. Deontay Wilder has also just obliterated Robert Helenius inside a round. I'm not surprised at all, to be honest with you. Listen, you have to understand something. Robert Helenius is a heavy-handed guy. He's a big heavyweight. For a man of his size, he can actually move a little bit too. But you have to understand something. He has been a consistent sparring partner of Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder's referred to him as a friend in the past. There was absolutely no way that they were going to call a guy to fight a comeback fight for Deontay Wilder after 2 batterings. They were very heavy defeats that he suffered at the hands of Tyson Fury. and you're going to call in a guy who might potentially beat you, don't be silly. There was one dude who shall remain nameless, because I'm not into that sort of thing of calling people out after they talk a lot of rubbish to me. That's not really it, but he'll know what I'm talking about. And I will say hello to the guy on Twitter who was being very sarcastic to me when I was saying I would have loved to have seen Deontay Wilder against a guy like Martin Bakole. And he was saying to me, what are you talking about? As if Martin Bakole is any better than Robert Helenius. And I was telling him, Helenius ain't lasting. He's going to get sparked out quickly. And he was saying to me, no, what are you talking about? Bakole is definitely not a better opponent than Helenius. Well, there you go. What happened? Deontay Wilder, and it's not like you've seen something new, right? This is not new and improved Deontay Wilder and you couldn't envisage that this was going to happen. What happened? Helenius was trying to walk him down. Wilder was on the back foot, taking a look at the patterns, just like he always does. Don't forget he was losing the rounds against Ortiz before the knockouts. He was losing the rounds against Gerald Washington before the knockouts, because Deontay Wilder trusts his power so much that he's not trying to win the rounds against you. He's reading your patterns and your entry points so he can line you up with that right hand. Now, it's the first knockout in a very long time that I've seen of his where it didn't come behind a 1-2. He usually uses the left hand as a rangefinder. He uses it to set up the right hand. In this case, he didn't have to set anything up because the opponent's coming at him, falling over his own lead leg, then dropping into the pocket, head first, head up in the air in a straight line. The worst thing you could possibly do against Deontay Wilder. Wilder hops back, leaning back, and then throws a punch down the pipe. Now, yes, he's generating the power as he's falling backwards, and he hasn't needed to use a left hand there as a rangefinder. But when you're talking about the upper echelons of the sport, guys who are going to be a lot smarter in how they enter the pocket and not start falling over their lead foot and then just running in with their head up in the air, Deontay Wilder's not comfortable in leading with right hands. He's not a guy who's going to use pull counters or set up shots. He's a guy that uses that left hand to explode into that 1-2, the rangefinder followed by the right hand. And so we didn't really see anything different from Deontay Wilder in that regard. Helenius was just a very, very poor opponent. And you can't fault Deontay Wilder for that. I'm not here to mug him off and say, look who he fought and things like that. It's a comeback fight. It's just that as a fan, I knew that this was only going one way, and it was Deontay Wilder winning the fight early. So it'll be interesting to see where Wilder goes from here. Will he fight Andy Ruiz now? Are you interested in that fight? Andy Ruiz, he's a weird one, isn't he? He's got a great chin. And he's got really fast hands, but he's got slow feet. And Wilder's quite good at staying off the back foot. Would he be able to line Ruiz up with a big shot and take him out like that? If he can't and Ruiz can get inside and they start exchanging flurries of shots, who knows? There's somewhat of an interest there, right? Let me know what you think and where you think he should go from here. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please don't forget to hit a stiff jab on the like button, a right cross on the subscribe button, and an uppercut on the notifications button. Take care. God bless.